In regard to the PDSA process, we were all really nervous. And I think it wasn't necessarily the process itself, which we didn't understand last August. It took us a few weeks to get into it, and I don't even think I've quite perfected it yet. It's a learning, ongoing process, but I think that the visitors, the number of visitors were what made it overwhelming to begin with. But I think once you realize that the process is helping students learn, you sort of get over your fear of visitors, because I don't think you think the visitors are coming in to say, "I've gotcha." I think they're coming in to understand the process. And so, yes, it still makes you nervous, but once you figure out that the process works, then you're okay.
The PDSA process in general, I think it's just a way of presenting your plans on a board in front of the children. It's almost like your lesson plans out front, out public for the children. And it's a great way for your children to know every day what they're doing. Walk in the door and they can automatically see, looking at the PDSA process, exactly what we were going to do for the day. They can look in the do section and they can see, the activities that we're going to do. They can look in the act section and they can see what we did last week and things that did work, things that didn't work. And so I think it's just a great way to display the things that you're already doing in your classroom so that your children always know what they're doing and they know where they're going. Also, they know the data and they know how they have been doing. So before they even get their report cards, they can kind of already have an idea of the things that they're doing well and the things that they need to improve on.
Last year, I was a first-year teacher, and letting the children take charge of the PDSA process was very difficult for me because I like my graph lines to be colored in exactly neat and everything to be placed perfect up there. But once I let them have a little bit of ownership, they actually bought into PDSA process a little bit more, and they had more confidence in it, and they started doing a lot better with actually explaining it and understand what they were doing themselves. And the data, I think, started helping them to push themselves a little bit more and achieve more.
In the do part of the PDSA, in math, I had a toss and talk that's real popular with our math text that we have. And I was using that quite frequently. And I had it up there as the do's, and we were actually evaluating, we were acting on, looking back and reflecting on what we did and did it help us achieve the goal that we wanted. And the students said, "Miss McGuire, we really hate that toss and talk, and we wish you'd quit putting it up there." And I said, "What do you mean?" So because I was able to give them that ownership, and we took that off of there, and we kind of came up with a different activity to do in order to achieve our learning target.
The data in the study section is very important because the data should drive your instruction. Just like with our common assessments, this is just daily, ongoing data. We use our pre-test and we use our post-test, and the good thing with that is you know exactly from the very beginning, if you give a pre-test, where your students are, so you know where to go with your instruction. For example, the other day I gave a test on place value, and I knew automatically that I didn't have to teach I didn't have to teach the first period, which of course is the ones, the tens, and the hundreds. I could automatically skip to the thousands place. So the data that you get from PDSA can definitely drive your instruction so that you know which areas you need to focus on, which areas you don't have to focus as much time on.
You never get comfortable with all those people coming in. But because all those people are coming in, at PLCs, we get to see the feedback. And as a grade level, it may not be individual feedback and say, Krista McGuire didn't have this on her board or whatever, but it is feedback that we can all sit with as a grade level and talk about how we can improve, what's on your board. I need to put this on my board, and it helps us to figure out how we need to move it and make it a little bit better. Not working harder, just trying to get everything and working smarter and making sure that everybody's helping each other with those boards.
Our first goal was way too broad, and so I didn't feel the data was helpful, but it was a learning experience. So now we know that our goal should have been rounding, and that would have been much more specific to see the progress made. But it's something that just you don't get immediately. It just takes time to realize that we're not perfect.
And your students will help you in that process. I mean, I know at one point, there's some different printable charts that you can put up on your PDSA board. And there was one that my students didn't like and they didn't understand. And so they were like, can we do something simpler, like what's hot and what's not? And so it is a learning process. We're definitely not perfect. We're learning through this process just like everyone else. But your students can help you in that process and help to see what works for them. I also stuck up a sheet, I was just trying to do the printed version, and my students were like, well, I really can't read that from a distance. So now we're doing the sentence strips. So I think it's just, you have to take this PDSA process and bring it into your classroom and make it yours and do what works for you. And and the more we do it, the better we get.